Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brian Henley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's your man, Big B, Brian Hanley, and welcome to Big 12 Insiders. I got something going on here. This is craziness. But what's going on, everybody? Appreciate everybody being in here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's me and Tim Fitzgerald. We are live tonight. Thank you guys for showing up. Got a lot to talk about today, man, with the show. Gonna obviously recap what happened last night in Big 12 action. But then we got something interesting to talk about, as along with taking some of your all's questions. As far as KenPom, I don't want to call KenPom nerd analytics. I don't want to do that. Having said all of that, there's an interesting and as far as analytics, something interesting going on right now with his metrics on who can win the national title. And it might be good news for the Big 12. So make sure you guys stick around, bring your questions, because we're going to go over all of that this evening. So first things first, Fitz, last night's action, man. Look, UCF has now won 2 straight. They get a win over Kansas State, 80-76. They had basically lost 7 in a row, 9 of 10. And now they've won 2 straight. That was a crazy ending to the game, though, Fitz. I don't know. Weird things happen in basketball games, I guess.
K-State was just up and down. They had a chance to win. They came maybe one play away, and the call went to UCF, and that was the game. Yeah. I don't think it was a bad call. I think they got it right, but they called one thing, and then they got overruled and changed the fate of the Wildcats. I do think they got that call right.
And that's the thing. They got it right. It's just the end of these basketball games here lately, the officiating, I'm just like, come on, man. And I get it. We're all human. We make mistakes, but I mean, sometimes it's just obvious. I thought that was kind of obvious, but whatever. Arizona gets back on the winning track over Utah, 83-66. I mean, we had looked up. Arizona had lost 3 of 4. They need this game because they're going to Iowa State next. Now, Iowa State's in its own way itself, but that's a good win for Arizona. And then BYU keeps it going, man. They've won 5 in a row. They win at Arizona State, 91-81. They have got this thing chucking in the right direction. They've won 9 of 11. BYU's got it going. It was a couple good basketball games, or 3 good basketball games, I should say, last night. Everybody off until Saturday. We'll cover that tomorrow and tomorrow's show as far as the weekend, what to watch. But what I really wanted to take a look at or talk about tonight, Fitz, is, KenPom. He's basically become, ever since Jeff Sagarin basically retired, KenPom has been the person, that everybody goes to when it comes to NCAA and any metrics on who can win and efficiencies and all that stuff. Now, I'm the first person. I always call it nerd analytics. I always throw that out there. I rely on my eyes to tell me what I need to know about basketball. I don't necessarily, rely on somebody's metrics.
Right.
However, KenPom is kind of the reverse of that. You might call it nerd analytics if you want to, but his system works. It's out there and it works. First off, any thoughts on KenPom's analytics from your side of things?
It's one thing to be an analytics person.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we heard, but the advanced analytics say, well, hold on. Is there really evidence behind that those analytics lead to win, loss, whatever? KenPom's onto something here with more trends of analytics, not even advanced analytics. It's just trends of what type of teams make it to a Final Four.
Yeah.
What type of teams hold up throughout the test of the NCAA tournament? And there are 9 teams that fit that criteria as of today, but as you mentioned, that can change.
Yeah. The criteria of what he has, and we'll just break that down, is first off, it's offense and defensive efficiencies, and in the top 20. That's who KenPom has a system that says if you can finish in the top 20, and right in that ballpark, you have a real opportunity to win the national championship. Now, KenPom is saying, and it's Ken Pomeroy, by the way, but he is saying, no, it's not just a possibility. You will win it. If you finish in this, then that's where the national championship team is going to come from. So not only are you elite, you're also going to win a national championship. There's a huge difference, and you're efficient on both sides of the ball. So there's 9 teams as of now that actually finished or that are in that category. So the one thing about that, Fitz, is I guess it's good news for the Big 12, because the Big 12, look, let's just be honest. We thought it was going to be the best conference in the country. The numbers are saying that it isn't necessarily the best conference in the country, but I will say this. For years, we've talked about in football, the SEC and the Big Ten being top heavy. We have said they are top heavy, and it's proven to be true.
Yep.
The difference is that the Big 12 is top heavy this year, especially according to KenPom, but they also have depth, and that's where the difference is. Where the SEC, you could say this year, yeah, it's got depth, and it does. It just does.
Well,
but not as top heavy as what the Big 12 is.
You look at bracketology, and the expectations are that as many as 5 SEC teams might be in the top 6 seeds of this entire tournament.
Right.
That's how dominant, according to the experts and the readout of whatever analytics you're looking at, whatever projections, computer rankings, they're just completely dominant. But is that true? I mean,
yeah.
Again, you know me, I love a conspiracy. I just find it interesting in the first year that ESPN completely owns the SEC. Suddenly they're the best basketball conference. But you mentioned the eyeball test.
Yes.
And they're good. They are. You watch SEC basketball, they're good. So I'm going to add an asterisk to what we're about to introduce to this, because I guess there's a world in which the SEC is so good that the constant pressure of playing these teams over and over has skewed downward the stats for all SEC teams. I guess that could be a version of reality if we wanted it to be. They're so good, they're making each other look bad according to these numbers.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah,
it's weird how all that works out. But again, there's certain networks that want to push an agenda. It is what it is. What are you going to do? At some point, it'll get proven out on the court. And I love that. Now, here's the thing about KenPom. 20 out of the last 22 years, the people that have finished within his system, within his criteria of being top 20 on offense and defensive efficiencies, 20 of the last 22 have won a national championship. It's come from that. So I'm not saying there's only one team that's inside of there. What I'm saying is, if you finish within the top 20 of offense and defensive efficiencies, the national championship has come from that system.
It's incredible.
So for me, that means something. It'd be one thing if it was, 12 out of 22 or something like that. No, 20 out of 22. What I mean is, and this year there's 9 teams that have that criteria. Now, last week, or the last time he did it was a month ago, and I'll tell you what those teams are. It was Michigan, Purdue, Houston, Iowa State, Michigan State, Florida, Duke, Auburn, and Arizona. That was what it was as of January 24th of last month. So it's totally different this time. Now, if you notice, there were 3 Big 12 teams that were in that. There were 3 Big 12 teams, 3 Big 10, 2 SEC, and an ACC team that was in it. This month, Fitz, totally different. Let's first off, there's 9 teams again. So let's start with the 5. 5 teams that are in this thing. And of those 5 teams, you've got Auburn, you've got Duke, Clemson, which is a weird one, Florida, and Maryland. It's weird. I mean, here's the thing. Duke, Auburn, Florida, you can see, though, all really, really good basketball teams. But then Clemson, and I don't think Clemson gets enough just due. Clemson's a really good basketball team, too, and so is Maryland. But you just don't hear about them quite as much. So, yeah, you just don't hear about it as much. But those 5 teams, now you're thinking, now, come on, Big B, I just told you there. You just told us that there were 5. Well, you're right. Or there were 9. There's 4 more. And guess what conference they just happened to be from? The old Big 12. Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, and Arizona. All, as of today, again, this can change, fit the criteria of KenPom's proven, not made up, not something that we're just throwing off the cuff, of his proven analytic formula to find a national champion. Finish within the top 20 in both offense and defense efficiency. 4 of the 9 are in the Big 12 conference, ladies and gentlemen. To me, that means something. that means something. You know, I know that the Big 12 is just that middling conference that it's spread all over and they don't have any blue blood. Well, Kansas is pretty much blue blood, and Arizona, if they're not, they're right there with it. But, you know, it's just they don't have any big names and yada, yada, yada. But here we are, and they're right there in the thick of it. Now, there's another team that's on the outside of this looking in is BYU. BYU's not far off from this, Fitz. They're not. If they had 13 teams, BYU would be one of them. Okay? So it's BYU is not that far away. It is the defensive efficiency that gets them in a little bit of trouble here. But that's where the difference is. The Big 12 has the teams to be able to win it. Now, will this last? I don't know. We'll see. But as of today, February 27th, Big 12 has got just as good a shot as any of those other teams to win a national championship, Fitz.
It's incredible. That's so cool. And plus, folks, we're getting down to the end of it. I mean, we are. We got this weekend and we got next week's games, and we're good. We're going to Kansas City to play some hoops. And then after that, so essentially we got 2.5 weeks before selections. This is getting pretty close. It's boiling down to what it will be on Selection Sunday. There's more basketball to be played. This will change. I guarantee you this won't be the 9 in 2.5 weeks.
No.
But as you mentioned, it's also possible that 5 Big 12 teams are in it in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't perfect, but it is an indicator that 90% of the time, more than 90% of the time, one of these teams will win.
Yep.
It's incredible. If you had a bet where you knew you had a field of teams where 90% of the time they were going to win the national championship, I might slide a little money on each one of those teams.
And that's the whole thing. And let me just break down some numbers here too, just so people understand this. First of all, as far as Big 12 teams, Houston, I really don't know what's going to happen over the last couple of weeks, but I feel like Houston's going to finish in this because their offensive efficiency is 7 and their defensive efficiency is 3.
So good.
I'm guessing that Houston's going to stay in there. Now, Iowa State is at 21 on offensive efficiency. Defense is at 9. They've had some guys out. Their top 2 scorers were out for a game. They had their second leading scorer and missed another game. So they're right on the cusp. And then they got a huge game at Arizona. But Arizona, as we mentioned, is also in this as well. Texas Tech, offensive efficiency at 10. Defensive efficiency at 27. So they're right on the cusp of moving in and out. I mean, first of all, again, they've had guys out too. So Texas Tech qualifies. And then Arizona, 19 on
Oh, he froze.
Will change. I'm not saying that this is all going to stay the same. I'm just saying, as far as a Big 12 standpoint, with only a couple weeks left, and again, BYU's not on the cusp. Who's to say we don't get more teams? And that could be the thing. I don't want people to think that this stops at 9. The goal isn't, hey, there's only 9 teams. These are the 9 that qualified according to KenPom as of right now.
Okay. So it is top 20 in offense and top 30 in defense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 20. And I think I said 20 over a top 20 on both. It's not top 20 on both. It's top 20 on offense and 30 on defense. I apologize. So
this is incredible.
Yeah. And there could be more teams that get into this down the road. Like I said, BYU's not that far off. They're really not. I'm interested to see all of this, though. I think this is astonishing when you take a look at it. Number one, from the standpoint of 20 out of 22 years, your formula works to pick the national championship. Okay. First of all, if that's the formula, can you come up with the formula for March Madness bracket for me, please? So I can just dominate all the brackets. I would love for that to happen, and include all the upsets while you're at it. I need to know those, because just so you know, I'll be going to Vegas for the first weekend of March Madness. So if you could throw a couple of upsets here or there, let me know what's going to happen. I'll be more than happy to take your advice. But yeah, I think this is astonishing, Fitz, on this end, and I think this is a good thing for the Big 12 conference, something we can actually stick our chest out about.
I agree. I think this is pretty cool. And I want to point out that I will be free to cover the shows for you while you're in Vegas, because I cover Kansas State, and they've volunteered not to play in the NCAA tournament this season. They've gone out of their way as of late to make sure they didn't. It was very nice of them to free up my schedule for you. But yeah, this shows that the depth is there in this conference. There's a number of really good teams. I watch Houston play and I see a national title team. I just think they're really good. But we'll see how this translates to the tournament. Again, maybe the SEC's so good offensively, nobody fits the defensive criteria. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they can come up with something to make this sound good for them. But there are 2 SEC teams on there that fit the criteria, and they're really good teams.
They are. Bracket Cat brings up a good point here, though. Says, I think the SEC is very good. I also think they could be like the Big 12 last year and not live up to all that in March. We saw that last year with the Big 12. Big 12 stuck its chest out and got humbled. Lord have mercy. That first weekend, it was awful, Fitz. It was awful. It was ugly. And because people had accused the Big 12 of manipulating the net. And people were like, oh, come on. You can't manipulate what happens. It's BS. Well, it looked like that the Big 12 manipulated the net. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, matchups mean everything, and especially in the NCAA tournament, but it just didn't look good. Now, I do believe that Houston would have made the Final Four if Shed doesn't get hurt against Duke. I think they beat Duke. I think they end up going to the Final Four. But, I mean, injuries are part of the game. It happens. What are you going to do? But having said all of that, I just think it's the SEC is really good. I don't want to diminish that. And the reason that they're so good, Fitz, was their non-conference. They beat everybody. Yeah. You know, it's one thing in football where we can sit back and, well, you didn't play anybody. No, in basketball, you usually do play teams. And the SEC did, and they won the games. Now, everybody is obviously different nowadays, you know, because you're just finding yourself and you're rounding in the shape. But when it comes tournament selection time, you can't tell me, hey, we beat you. You know, there is no guessing games about this. Our conference beat everybody's conference. So, yeah, you probably deserve to have the most teams in, but will that last after the first weekend? How many will survive?
I can guarantee you they will do better than the Big 12 because they're going to be 1 and 2 seeds primarily. Yeah. While the Big 12 opened the door up by being 3 and 4s and getting those 3 against 14 games, or you advanced in and play a 6. They're going to be pretty sheltered as 1 or 2 seeds from upsets. We've seen it happen. but much less frequent. So that is an advantage SEC, but that was embarrassing last year. The Big 12 faded faster than having your first drink at a Diddy party. They were just gone. They were out. Too far? Too far?
No.
Okay. They faded. They don't remember a thing after that drink, and they went home. And that's kind of how it went for the Big 12. It probably kind of felt the same way too. So it's I love the NCAA tournament so much because it's so volatile. That's what makes it better than anything we could dream up for football postseason. I mean, it does. We know who the great teams are in football because they're bigger, faster, stronger. You know, quite often they're just physically going to beat you. Yeah, that happens in basketball, but the more physically gifted team doesn't win in basketball. It really can come down to the best team. So I love the tournament because of that volatility, and you can have a one lose now. It's happened twice. So that just adds more to it. And I think that points out that the top and the bottom are closing up a little bit. We're not seeing this huge gap of all the talent going to a certain number of schools, even those schools that are 14, 15, 16. I mean, well, you see it now with the portal. You see guys come from those schools that were 14 or 15 seeds that are now starting at top 10, top 20 institutions. So the talent's out there for these teams to compete.
Right. And that's the thing. Bracket cat. Well, first off, BYU says brings up a good comment. Not saying all SEC teams are overrated, just some of them rank too high in his opinion. First of all, you're 100% right, but we know why they do that. They hijack the rankings. They to get the seedings. It is what it is. That's the way it's been in football for several years, and it's starting to turn over that way in basketball, and it kind of makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest with you. I said, but Bracket Cat does bring up a good point. Said Florida losing to Georgia at home, or losing to Georgia and at home to Missouri was an eye-opener. Missouri has a good basketball team. Mm-hmm. That's why, when teams are bad in the SC or in the Big 12, they can be good the very next year because Missouri didn't win a conference game last year. They were terrible. And this year, you get the right matchup, Missouri can do some damage in this tournament. They really can.
They're good. They're built for it.
Ask Kansas how good Missouri is.
Yeah.
They absolutely blew the doors off of them. So it's this turn. Now, I'm not saying Kansas is anything special, but they're not just chopped liver either. But having said all of that, that's why I'm looking forward to this, and I'm excited for the Big 12 because of the four teams that we mentioned, Fitz, I like them all. I think all of them can make the Final Four. I really do. People are going to say that Arizona can't. I don't believe that. Arizona got off to a shaky start to begin the season. I get that. And people kind of wrote them off, Fitz. They had lost some games. They had a losing record at one point in time. Not like one or two games into the season. It was like 6 games in. They got a losing record. You look back 2 months later, you look at the teams that they lost to. Every one of those teams are good basketball teams. They just played a tough schedule. Okay, you didn't win the games. I get it. Or you didn't win all the games. I would say that Arizona would love to line up with any one of those teams that beat them right now and tell me that Arizona can't beat them. I don't believe that. I flat out just don't believe that at all. So of those 4, they can win it. BYU, I don't know if BYU can necessarily win a national title because kind of what I mentioned, I don't know if they play enough defense to do that. But if they get hot, and they make enough shots, we saw it happen to them last year. They just weren't tough enough in the tournament. I don't think that's a problem for this BYU team. I think they played totally different than what they did a year ago. I think they understood why they got beat in the tournament because when the games got physical, that game got physical. BYU didn't stand up to that. I don't think that would be the problem this year, Fitz. They're a totally different basketball team.
No, they're built to beat some teams. They're proving it right now. They're going to be a disruptor in this event. After what happened last year, I'm confident they're going into the second weekend, and they're going to beat a team or two that people had some money on.
Yep.
BYU's a problem. They've gotten really good. And again, Big B, at the end of the day, what you did in November or December might decide if you got in the tournament or not. but it doesn't decide how good a team you are at the time of the tournament.
Nope.
And I think we're seeing some Big 12 teams that are going through cycles. For example, Iowa State's right now cycling down. They're struggling a little bit. They're not nearly as good as they were in the start of the year. But 2.5 weeks from now, maybe they're cycling back up. And they hit that perfect timing and they have that 6-game run through the tournament. It's possible. I mean, someone can make a run. NC State did it last year from no bye in a large ACC bracket to the Final Four. God, basketball's great.
Yes.
That was an amazing story.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the story ended up being, how were they so bad all year? Because that wasn't a fluky good team. That was a good team. So how were you bad? But it can't be done. There's enough talent out there to have those stories happen every year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we've seen it. I mean, now, I don't know if we're going to say that the teams are bad, but like when George Mason can make a Final Four, Fitz, you know, a Loyola of Chicago, when they can make a Final Four, number one, that's why we love March Madness, because it's the parity in college basketball is incredible. Transfer portal and NIL has made it even more of parity around college basketball. That's why I have no patience for teams that say, well, we got to build and we got to start here. I'm like, no, you don't. It doesn't take long. You just have to build a team. If you build, and Missouri is the perfect example of building a team. You go from not being able to win, and Fitz, they didn't really compete in a lot of their conference games last year. They were getting blown out. You go from that to what they are this year, and it's not like they added 12 new basketball players to their team. They didn't do that. They added a few, but they just built a team. You can do that. And that's why to me, I love college basketball so much, is because, first of all, there's 5 guys on the court at a time. Okay. It's not like football where if 5 guys are doing something right and 6 are not, that's a bad play. Okay. That is an absolute bad play. And so it's easier in basketball where you can have 2 guys doing the right thing. Maybe 3 guys are not, but you can still score a basket, you know? So that's the difference. Or you can still stop somebody on the other end. That's where the difference comes in. But it is, in my opinion, basketball is the equalizer, and you said it yourself, as far as, you know, the tournament goes. You don't have to be playing good at the beginning. It's all about building. That's what March Madness is about. And that's why I don't know if I like it more than football, but I have more patience because, you don't have to play. I mean, every loss isn't looked upon as, oh my God, you lost this game. You're not going to win. You're not going to make the playoff, or you're not going to make this. And every loss is live and die. Some people like that about football. That's why I like the playoff, because they're kids. They have off days. You know, they have off days, man. And sometimes they're just not focused. I get it. And it's not that professionals don't either, but sometimes they just have off days.
Yep,
so
I do.
That's why basketball to me is so great. I love the tournament. I'm going to love this tournament. I'm going to love the Big 12 tournament. Don't tell me there's a better tournament that's going to be out there than the Big 12 tournament. You know, the newcomers to the conference that haven't been to Kansas City yet, you're going to like it. I know there was some talk that you didn't necessarily like Kansas City and thought it should be some other places. Wait till you get there and then tell me somebody else puts on a better conference tournament. You won't find that. You just won't find it.
Give us good weather. Just please.
Yeah,
Last
need
2 years
that.
has been cold, but it's such a great setup for this event, and the entire region's invested in it. They really are. I mean, if Oklahoma State was really good, they'd be up here. They'd be up in Kansas City. Iowa State, oh boy. I can't wait for the Arizona State fans, or
Absolutely.
you know, any of them coming in to see what happens with Iowa State fans. Again, to Iowa State fans, Kansas City's Cancun. They're going on spring break, and they're going south to warmer weather. Even if it's 30, it fits that criteria. And they just have a blast. You will see so much Busch Light being drank, you will think you're in an alternate universe. No, Iowa visits Kansas City. That's what happens.
That's right.
It's an incredible experience. I love the event. I'm not going myself this year. I'm going to send up one of the young guys, Gills, and he'll take care of it. But it's pretty cool. It really is. And it can be a tough hotel room too, particularly down in the downtown area. Absolutely. But that's also cool because the plaza's amazing. There's other parts of Kansas City that are really cool. And there's transportation to get everywhere. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's a neat deal. It's a really neat deal. I'm looking forward to watching some hoops here in a couple weeks. So other than that, Fitz, that's all I got for tonight, man. I appreciate everybody showing up, man. Thank you guys that left comments. Thank you guys that showed up early. We're going to start doing this, like I said, continuously on Thursday nights, man. I pushed it back an hour because we got BYU, Arizona State, Colorado. We've got those people in the conference, and I gave them an extra hour so they can get in here. So I appreciate everybody getting in. Other than that, that's all I got, man. We will talk to you tomorrow. Make sure you guys show up tomorrow in the comments section like you always do. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. So until then, I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.